My mission is to impact the hearts and minds of women, helping them change their stories and empowering them to love themselves, their bodies, and their lives.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Change Your Story podcast. I'm Hannah Dawson, your host and transformation coach. I'm a certified personal trainer, nutritionist, mindset coach, writer, speaker, and creator of the Fit Club Babes app, and I am here to help you transform your life. While I love teaching all things nutrition and fitness, and trust me, you'll get lots of that on here, my true passion lies in the power of mindset and self-relationship. I know firsthand how powerful a mindset shift can be. It has profoundly impacted not only my health and fitness journey, but also my relationship with myself, and it can do the same for you too. Many women believe as we age, we lose our beauty, body, and health, but that's not true. You can feel and look amazing and get better with age, and I'm going to show you how. Are you ready to change your story? Let's flip the script one thought at a time. Welcome back, my lovelies, to episode 2 to changing your story, my story, sharing my story with you. This is episode 2 or part 2. So if you haven't listened to episode 1, please do, because this story, sharing my story works like chapters of a book kind of. So it won't really make sense unless you, well, I mean, it might, but you'll have to put the pieces together backwards. So go and just listen to that first episode if you haven't finished it all. It is a little bit longer, about 45 minutes. You guys, again, I'm not sure how long these are going to take me because I am just speaking from the heart. And so whatever comes up for me in this moment, I do have some notes, but I'm just kind of letting it flow. And I believe, honestly, that's the best way, because I think I will know, and I believe I will be led spiritually to know what to say that will have the greatest impact in your life. And so as we go into episode 2, you guys, really, this is where I learn about, coping with pain, from abuse to self-rejection. Essentially, this is this chapter of my life. And so, looking back, now I realize that 13-year-old me was the year that everything changed. All right. This is the year I moved back with my mom. I was in grade 8. She was still with that same boyfriend. So that was something that was new, but we are living in Kimberly. But the difference was with this year is I, for so long, was so afraid of losing my mom. And still was, but something happened in this year that I will share with you that made me stop fearing losing her. I don't think I ever stopped fearing losing her, but I started to more so fear becoming her. I was scared that I would end up just like her. So I did a lot of different things to deal with this fear. That led me down some pretty crazy paths that we'll get to in other episodes. But, 13 years old was the year I really was afraid that I would become my mom. It was also the year that food became my way of coping with my emotions, when I didn't know how to handle. And this is where my eating disorder took on a whole new personality of its own. I remember one day coming home from school, and at that time, well, actually all my childhood, my mom lived on welfare. She didn't work, maybe for bits when she was sober. For those years when she was married to that man. For a bit, she was a nail artist, but for the most part, she collected welfare. We were a welfare family. We got food from the food bank. She didn't work. She chose not to work. And any extra money that she had, she would spend on drugs or alcohol. And so our food was from the food bank. And so if you've got food from the food bank, you know that it is a blessing to have the food bank, but it's not always the best nutrient dense food. So we got lots of pastries and breads and cakes and things like that. So I found myself going towards food a lot of the time. Most days she wasn't home when I got home from school. And I just remember that was just the worst feeling. I don't know why. As a child, I hated coming home to an empty house because I knew that when she wasn't home, she wouldn't be home, or it would be late, and she would bring a whole bunch of people home, and she would party and drink all night and blast the music, or she would be high, or she just wouldn't come home. And so, but this particular day, again with the food bank, she had made, those Betty Crocker cakes, the ones with the confetti. She made one of those cakes with the confetti icing. We must have got it in our delivery. It must have been food day. It must have been bank food day. I remember those days. We'd actually make milk from powder. So I remember eating cereal. We had to actually, the food bank would give us a bag of powdered milk. And so you'd mix it with water and you'd put it in the fridge so it would get cold. And that's how I would eat my cereal. But anyway, so this cake. And I get home, and nobody's home, and this cake is on the counter. Nobody's ate it yet because it was just me with my mom, because my brother was still living with my grandparents for grade 8. And I remember taking a bite of this cake. And long story short, I ate the whole entire cake. I just couldn't stop. And I just remember feeling like I had no control. No control in a literal sense, and an emotional sense, and so many senses. I just had no control over what was going on. I couldn't even stop this taste. Like, the food was like, it was comforting me, but at the same time I hated myself for not having control over it. And that's really when my eating disorder developed. I decided to purge everything that I had eaten, and this gave me a sense of control. I felt like it was something I can control. I can eat what I want. I can puke it back up, purge it back up. And so this was the beginning of my eating disorder. And so at school one day, some girl had commented, about feeling gross about some food. I don't know what the comment was. I just remember saying, just throw it up. That's what I do. And I just remember all of the looks, because we were sitting on these benches kind of in a corner, and all the girls just kind of like looked at me like I had said something, like I had cursed and said the worst thing that you can say. And then I kind of made a joke, like I was joking. But later on, I think that week I got called into the principal's office. Long story short, my friend was there, said the whole thing. I didn't really even know what an eating disorder was, or that that's what I was doing. I had no idea about an eating disorder. I just felt like I had no control. That was my way to control. And so I got the help there. That was the first time I got the help. The teacher, my friend, was angry with my friend, but because I felt so shameful, because I felt so embarrassed about what she had told. But I'm so grateful that she did that to this day, because I don't know if I would have got the right healing and the right help. And so that was the beginning of my eating disorder, my body dysmorphia, disordered eating, that really shaped my identity with myself, and my relationship with food and my body. I hated my body. I hated myself. I hated my mom at this point. I just hated everything. I just was in such a negative place. And so, I got the help. I went to an eating disorder clinic. I had a TA at the school that the principal provided, and she kind of went over food with me. So I kind of learned you can't drink slushies every single day and eat chips. It's not like that will put weight on your body. It's not healthy, for one. And so she had put me through a workout. So the seeds were planted there, and I'm very grateful for that principal and that teacher and that friend, for those moments in my life. It's not really when things started changing, but it planted the seeds. And then again, shortly after that event happened, I was called into the principal's office again, and my mom had attempted suicide. I didn't know it at the time. They just told me I was not allowed to go home. And so, of course, we're in a small town. You walk to school. So I ran all the way home and found paper towels full of blood in our kitchen. And so my mom had slit her wrists and was in the hospital. And so I was told to go to a friend's, but I didn't listen. And so, I think my biggest fear as a child was losing her. And in that moment, I felt like my whole world shattered. But also, what else happened was I started to hate her. I hated her for never being there, for leaving me emotionally long before that day. And when she tried to leave me physically, something inside me shifted. I stopped fearing losing her, and I started fearing becoming her. And so my behavior and my pattern and my belief systems all came from doing everything that she didn't do. So grade 8 was a hard year. It was a hard year. I continued to go to my dad's in the summertime and spend time with him. Grade 9, was also a year that I had my first boyfriend. So going through these changes as a teenager, I feel like I'm telling you guys everything, kind of like just like everything. I don't know what to filter and what not to. So I'm just telling you my story authentically as it comes to my heart. So grade 9 was the year I got my first boyfriend. And this is really important because I stayed with him all my high school, and that was really a blessing in disguise because his parents were so amazing. Grade 9 was the year that I also attempted suicide. It was the year that my mom, again, we were still struggling. She was not home all the time, and I was starting to struggle with feeling depressed, and I didn't know these emotions. I just thought it would be better if I wasn't alive. This was like after I had just got had a boyfriend, and I was going through all of these things. And so I decided to take these pills that my mom had in her cupboard. And I took the whole entire bottle of these pills. Well, it turns out that they were just like a fat burner. Just a fat burner pill. And in my heart, I don't think I was trying to kill myself. I think I was a cry for help, a cry for love and attention. But it definitely elevated my heart rate enough to go to the hospital and to have them pump stuff into me to bring my heart rate back down. I remember calling my best friend and telling her I ate a whole bottle of pills. And when I told the doctors I had to bring the bottle, and they're like, you're going to be fine. I could have given myself a heart attack. That's how much stuff was in it, but I didn't. It was just, I was really sick. I was throwing up the next day and things like that. So, and that was really embarrassing. And the boy that I had started dating actually found out and dumped me. And so we ended up getting back together. So that was just a moment in that, like my belief and my story and how I thought about myself and who I saw myself to be. I didn't like her. I just wanted her to disappear. I rejected her so badly. I didn't want people to know who she was. I didn't want people to know where it came from, what happened to me. I just wanted to be somebody else. I didn't want to be me. I didn't want to be me. And I rejected her. And that is the biggest part of what I see now looking back. I rejected myself in that moment, and I tried to be everything but her. And every attempt that I did after that was to silence her, to not be myself, from silencing my faith. When I lived with my auntie and even my grandma, very religious, but I always believed in something bigger. I never really was a religious person or like the rules of religion, but something bigger always was inside me, and my faith was something big to me. And that year I stopped talking about my faith. I remember kind of giving my faith up because friends would make fun of me. Friends would make fun of me for believing in God and things like that. They'd call me a Bible thumper. So all of these little things that were such a beautiful part of me, I shut out. And so after I started dating this guy, which again, he was a blessing in disguise. His family was amazing because my mom still struggled. When my mom found out that I had attempted suicide, she, or just, my cry for help, she says, you have to buy me a new bottle of those pills. But that was just the mindset and mind frame, and that's just her sickness and her disease talking. That hurt me for a lot of years, but I realized looking back now, she's just sick. She's a sick woman that her sickness takes over, and that's the first thing that she thinks about is that I wasted her pills. I really wanted her to worry about losing me. I wanted it to shake her up and sober her up, because she promised me so many times that she would get sober and she would do better, and I believed her and I wanted to believe her. And maybe I thought some part of me thought that attempting that, even if I knew it wouldn't kill me, maybe would be enough to shake her to get sober, but it didn't. It just irritated her. And so I remember her coming home one day drunk, and I was sitting in my room talking to my boyfriend on the phone, and just swearing and telling me to get the F out of her house and calling me all these names. And she would do that very frequently when she would drink. She was a mean drunk. She kind of probably resembled her father, my grandpa. I think, when you drink and the anger comes out, you're not someone that you would normally be. And so, yeah, she would get very angry, physical. We'd get into like actual physical fist fights, like punching in the face fist fights. And so she told me to get out, and my boyfriend at the time heard it on the phone, and he never grew up like that. Like, he had his dad and his stepmom that was his mom, because she raised him from the time he was little. And so he's like, can I come and get you? You can come and stay with us. And so I went there, and I stayed with them, and they took care of me, and I still felt like something was wrong with me, or like my mom would say, you're just asking for attention and all of these things. So there's these beliefs that I had, like I'm just a bad kid and I don't know how to listen and I'm running away. And I mean, that's what she portrayed to my grandparents and everybody, just that I didn't listen. But and that might have been the two, right? But I just couldn't. She was just so out of control that I didn't want to be around her. But living with my boyfriend's parents there for a bit was a blessing in disguise. And so his parents were a huge influence in my life and really showed me some stability and love. And so every household that I kind of lived in, from my grandparents to my auntie to them to my boyfriend's parents to my best friend's mom and my best friend when I lived with my dad, they kind of would give me an idea of what certain parts of love felt like and stability felt like. So those moments were really special, and those I always took with me, because I didn't really have a role model. I never really seen what healthy boundaries were, what health was, what love was, what good habits were. I was just in a life of like addiction and chaos and abuse on all levels. That's all I saw. So to see a family where it was like warm and loving, I constantly felt like, when you get a puppy that has been beaten and it just shakes all the time, or it like quivers really fast because it's had been abused, that's what I felt like I would be in environment. So I would really find myself morphing into these different personalities to make sure that they wouldn't stop loving me. And so I would be like clean up extra in the house or do dishes. I'd go above and beyond so that I would get praise from them, and that would make me feel like I was good and I was worth loving. And I was so terrified of them, of not doing enough, and them calling me lazy or not being enough. Like, I had all of these fears. And so over the next couple years, like I said, I dated him for my whole high school life. But over the next year, when I was living with him, his parents had reached out to my dad and my stepmom to ask for support, because again, this is age 15. This was the year before my mom attempted suicide, battling eating disorder. Then I attempted it, for a cry for help. And then she kicks me out. I'm living with his parents. They're trying to go to social services to get money to just help me. They're essentially telling me that I need to get a full-time job. This is really angering my boyfriend's stepmom, because she says she is in grade 9. She shouldn't have to work. She should get to be a child. And so she goes, let's reach out to your dad. And so this moment in my life, up till that point, I had been going to my dad's every single summer. My dad met me when I was 5. I lived with him, and it was that moment when I needed help, when I didn't have enough money. I didn't want to go and live with him. I had a boyfriend, I had friends, I had high school. There's no way I wanted to stay there. And so they asked for support and help. And the comeback of that, the lashback of that was, we want a DNA test to make sure she's ours. And I get it now looking back. I don't judge my dad. I love him, and even my mom. So I don't ever want me sharing my story to make it like them, like they're the villains, because I love them and I understand that they both have their own stories. And I get that. Like, he didn't know if I was really his, but come on, when I'm 15 years old, I was 15 at the time. It was like, and so that tied a belief to money. Like, I need to make money for people to love me, that I was not worth taking care of or protecting or supporting. So there's beliefs that were starting to build. And so I got a DNA test and they found out I was his for sure. And I didn't deal with the pain, just stuffed it. So again, all the pain from when I was little, stuffed it, all the pain, stuffed it, literally stuffed it with food, until I actually lived with my boyfriend's parents, and his stepmom was really health conscious, worked out. And so I found myself really copying what she would do, almost to the extreme where she noticed and she had to start eating certain foods, because I remember overhearing them talk, because I would not eat certain carbohydrates because that's what she would do. And so they didn't want me to have any disorder type of behaviors, which was, again, a loving thing. I don't even think they know to this day, that I heard them or I was aware of that, but I was so hyper aware. But I wanted to be just like her, because I really looked up to her and I really admired her, and she was so kind to me. I wish, part of my heart was like, I wish she was my mom. I wish I had a mom like this. I wish that every time I had a loving mother figure in my life that provided, she would take me shopping, and she would tell me I'm loved. And, she just did motherly things to me that, I just wish that, I really just looked up to her. And so over that time, I went back to my dad's in the summer, and then back with my mom. So I moved back with my mom for grade 9. And so grade 9, the summer of grade 9, so grade 10, I moved back with my mom. The summer of grade 9, I actually went to work for my dad's cousin. And this is when my fitness journey began. I went to work for my dad's cousin. She worked for Canada Post, and I didn't know she was an alcoholic. So they don't get paid till the end of the month or the first of the month. But anyways, she didn't have payday. She had no money, but I was helping her with her job, and she was going to pay me for it. But she had no groceries in her house, nothing. So long story short, I lost 25 pounds. I'm not joking. 3 weeks, lost 25 pounds. And when I got back home, I remembered my boyfriend's mom going, "Holy, you look amazing. What happened?" And I know my clothes weren't fitting anymore. They were big on me. I went from 100 and almost 40 pounds to 113 pounds. It may even be more than 25 pounds. Like, I'm not doing the math right now, but you get the point. It was a lot of weight. And I remember this fear coming over me. I don't want to gain the weight back. I don't want to be the chubby girl. I don't want to be the chubby girl. And so I went and took a tour of this tiny little gym in our town. A bodybuilder had owned it. Actually, a girl I went to school with, her dad owned that gym. And it was $99. They're having a special for 3 months. And so I asked my stepdad, I said, "Can you give me $99?" And he did happily. It was still the same stepdad that she was with since grade 5. And so this was the one stepdad that I had longest in my life. And he was so good to me. And so anyways, that was the beginning of my fitness journey. That was where my fitness journey really began. And so, I found myself going to the gym every day after school. I remember even the lady at the gym, I remember her name, Lorraine. She's just another angel in the skies. The gym became a safe haven for me. It became an escape from home life. She created for me a workout plan. I still remember it to this day. It was 3 full body weighted sessions and 2 cardio sessions. And so I followed that plan like it was my religion. I went there every day after school. I looked forward to it. Nobody really in my grades were into that. Like, girls were not into that when I was in grade 10. Again, back then, weightlifting wasn't really a thing for girls. Like, we had a class in school that did some sort of weightlifting, but most of my girls or my friends in school were into sports and swimming and volleyball and basketball and things like that. Wasn't working out. So it was really weird for them that I went to the gym. All the older boys would be at the gym. I'd always see them at the gym, but very rarely girls. And I remember people saying things about my weight because I was always the chubby girl from the time that I moved back from my aunties and lived with my mom and put on all that weight. I was the chubby girl, thunder thighs, ghetto booty. And here I'd lost all the weight and I started getting attention I had never got before even from the coaches and the trainers that were at the gym, like, wow, Hannah, you're coming every day. That is amazing. And it was validation I wasn't used to getting. I wasn't used to having that much attention on me. It felt good. And so the gym became this place that I did something good. I was good and I was recognized, because at school I was extremely shy, or I was trying to be cool and fit in and making stupid choices and doing stupid things, and just like always wanting to be talking. And school was not interesting to me. I really struggled in school, besides being really shy, so I wouldn't ask for help. And if I did and I still didn't understand it, you bet I was never asking again, because I didn't want to feel stupid. I already felt stupid. And even if I had homework, I had nobody to help me with my homework. I wish I would have known to just reach out to teachers. But my favorite place in school, you guys, was the counselors. I loved going into the counselors and being able just to talk. And I remember the counselor was just such a place of no judgment, and I could talk about my life. I props to school counselors. I mean, you're amazing. If you are a school counselor listening to this, or you know them, I mean, they're incredible people, to be able to be there for kids and students when they're going through things. So that became another safe haven for me, was this school counselors. And so the gym became this place I would go to after school. I never wanted to go home after school, because I knew my mom wouldn't be home, or she'd have weird people at her house, or she wouldn't be home. And this was the first year that my brother was back living with us. So I would go to the gym, I'd go home. If she wasn't home, I would make me and my brother food to eat. And I didn't know the impact of this. I didn't even understand that this wasn't normal until I was telling a girl at school, and she goes, "Oh my God." She goes, "What? Like, I had no idea that's what you were living through." And I didn't even think it was different until someone said it, because I was so used to living like that. I didn't think it was odd or whatever. And so the gym just became this place of my identity. It became this place where my body changed, where I got attention. But something so much more was happening under the surface of the gym. It was a godsend. It was a miracle. It was an anchor. It was feeding something deep inside me I didn't know would save me later on in my life. Fitness saved my life. It was a part of my life in a time when kids were starting to get into drugs in school, and I wasn't, because I loved my healthy routine. I loved my healthy routine so much that I a lot of the times would blow off going out with friends, because I wanted to go to the gym after school. I wanted to go home. I'd watch that 70s show. If you know, loved that show. I would eat some popcorn and drink a hot chocolate. That was like my treat every Friday night. But the downside, the double-edged sword of this fitness, my identity became really tied to my weight. If I wasn't a certain weight, I was so scared of putting back on the weight. So the gym became this way to keep it off. Also, the gym became this place of control. I couldn't control what was going on in my life. I couldn't control my mom. I couldn't control the situations that were happening around me, but I could control my weight. I could control those things. So it became this place of control. And the one thing that I could control. So that was the double-edged sword, because, it was this thing that was supposed to be healthy, and it was an amazing part of my life. And it impacted my life in such a positive way, but also, addictions show up and rear their ugly heads like a game of whack-a-mole. I went from disordered eating to now obsessively I went from eating disorder, to obsessively having disordered eating. The way I viewed food, good and bad, couldn't have certain things. I was all or nothing. To viewing workouts as punishments for food that I ate, to working out because I was so afraid to gain the weight back, and having this fear of looking a certain way or being a certain way that I wouldn't be loved. All the attention, all the validation I got, the identity I created around this new body, around this new person that I felt she was liked, she was loved. If I gained weight, all that went away. with a snap of a finger. That's what I felt. That is the belief that I took on. And so over that next year, the gym became, this real anchor, this place that that provided me, this safety, but also was this healthy influence until it wasn't. I went away for Easter to stay with my dad, came back to being homeless because my stepdad kicked my mom out. Throughout that year, our phone bills were cut off, our cable was cut off, our heat was cut off. Like, she just wasn't paying the bills. She was using drugs and stuff like that. So I was kicked out there for a bit. And so that summer, she finally got a house, and she picked a house based on what me and my brother liked, even though she couldn't afford it. She probably could afford it, but her drug use was too extensive. She owed people money. So, we didn't live there very long. We lived there until me and my boyfriend got back from the movies one night, and my mom was withdrawing. Never seen that before. I've seen her have seizures from using too much drugs, seen many, many things happen with her. But this was the first time she was withdrawing and she was using heroin. She asked me to get her purse. I got her purse. I had this need to look in her purse. Thank goodness I didn't stick my hand in, because it was all full of needles, injection needles. And so I showed my boyfriend, and he goes, "You've got to get out of here. Like, this is like a horror movie. Like, this is what you see in movies. This isn't something you should live in." So, he was older than me, and he was graduated already. So he was working. So we ended up renting a basement suite from people that we know that owned a home. And they had a basement suite in the bottom. So I moved out for grade 11. I worked full time, and I went to school. And that was a really hard year. Really battled depression and anxiety and food, and my relationship with food was out of control, and just dealing with depression and going through a whole bunch of these crazy emotions from my mom just really spiraling into addiction, always being high when I'd see her, almost weird things. And just not knowing how to process all of the things, and not being able to control myself and my food and my habits just really spiraled me. And so by the end of grade 11, I was mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically exhausted. I put on a really great front. I was very great at smiling all the time. I was very great at letting you know everything was fine, even though underneath I would get these waves of darkness and depression. And so at this moment, I had decided the best solution would be to move to my dad's, because I wanted to move to Vancouver anyways to go and be a makeup artist when I was done school. That was my dream, was to become a makeup artist. So I thought, grade 12, then I don't have to pay for rent. I can live at home. I don't have all of these worries that I have now. And so, my boyfriend at the time also had an idea for me of how he had dreams for me of what I was going to be. And I didn't like what he had to say about that. I loved him and I loved his family, but that was not a part of my story, and I needed to move away. And so, I really was running. I was running away from everything that I didn't want to be. So I moved in my end of grade 11 summer year to go live with my dad. And that was the moment that I started running 1,000 miles in the wrong direction. And I spiraled so fast and so dark. Everything I was running away from, I was running headfirst into 1,000 miles an hour, bombarded, fully out of control, like a bomb went off. You couldn't stop it. Things just fully got so out of control, and I didn't know how to get out, and I didn't know what to do. And so in the next episode, you guys, we're going to be going over, I'm going to be sharing, my battle with drug and alcohol addiction, and really how I got out of that life, how I got out of that lifestyle, and how I really turned everything around. So I'm excited for the next episode to be able to really go dive deep with you all and get raw and real on that journey. Probably this next episode will be the one that scares me the most to share. Not scares me, but is just such a part that took me so long to heal and forgive myself for. So I just believe it's the one that I need to share most. So I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye for now. Until next time.